Start with breaking news. Bombshell allegations rocking Washington against President-elect Donald Trump's choice for Attorney General. Two women say Matt Gaetz paid them for sex, and they saw him have sex with an underage girl. The woman's lawyer joins us this hour, and we have some big questions, particularly about their credibility and why the Biden Department of Justice did not believe them. Plus, we're learning President-elect Donald Trump is headed to Brownsville, Texas, Tuesday. He'll watch Elon Musk's SpaceX launch of their new Starship rocket. And with that, we welcome you to the fairest network on television. First tonight, America set free, you might say. Over the weekend, I was playing golf with a good buddy. Someone in the group made a tame but kind of off-color joke, happens on a golf course, and everybody nervously chuckled. The joke was funny, objectively. But we've all been scared to laugh for the past few years, right? Because the woke police was behind you in a golf cart. They were lurking in the bushes. They were around us at the water fountains at work. They were with our kids at school. And the woke police could cancel you instantly. Then that same friend said, Trump won. You can say it now. And everybody laughed. It is undeniably true. Trump's election victory broke the eggshells we have all been walking on. We're not the only ones noticing the change. Axios is out with two new pieces. Mike Allen writes about America's tectonic shifts. Another Axios article, Erica Pandy, describes the secret Trump voters who are having a post-election coming out party. The piece shows examples of Trump supporters sporting their MAGA hats in public. Rodeo Drive in Los Angeles, New York City. We've even seen them around Washington, D.C. It is not often. It was not even possible in the past 8 years that you saw MAGA hats in Beverly Hills or at brunch in Manhattan, and there they are. This time around, it seems like Trump supporters aren't afraid to say who they voted for anymore. Something has changed. For example, TikTok influencer Esha Javd sent a very clear message to her followers on the app.
I'm done. I'm so tired of my old fan base. I don't give a about your identity politics. I voted for Trump, and I hate fat people.
She said it. You can say anything these days, so people feel at least. As usual, some of our other friends in the media who live inside Washington and think it is real life don't get it. First and foremost, the New York Times. When Trump won the first time, New York resisted. Now, ? It's complicated. John Leland and Herbine Mako wrote the article. New Yorkers voted overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris, but they woke up stunned to learn how many of their neighbors voted the other way. Gasp. One of the New Yorkers they spoke with is Annie Tisch, an English teacher in Manhattan, who says she feels gutted. Quote, I feel that my country and large parts of our city have betrayed ourselves and our children and our neighbors. Yes, Annie is teaching children. And she's not the only one missing the point. Former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki railed against Trump's closing argument in her monologue on Sunday. She basically said that people who voted for Trump, and this has been Democrats' problem the whole time, are wrong to feel how they feel.
There are just incredibly few examples of transgender girls playing in youth sports. And when we see those examples, there isn't evidence that these kids are a threat to safety or fairness. Donald Trump and Republicans have managed to amplify their bad faith attacks to the point that people do have concerns, as misguided and misinformed as those concerns may be.
So they are misinformed, misguided, deplorable pieces of garbage who support Nazis. That's now how Democrats, the Democratic elite at least, views Donald Trump supporters. Like it or not, Trump's win came at the hands of Americans who are happy not to be walking on eggshells anymore. Former Obama White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel said it best in an interview with the New York Times. When the woke police come at you, you don't even get read your Miranda rights. It seems fundamentally unfair. America is great because it believes in fairness. People believe fairness has now returned. You can support who you want politically. You can tell a joke. Now we are seeing in real time what happens when America gets set free of the woke police. Bill O'Reilly is here, host of the No Spin News, author of the best-selling book, Confronting the President. No Spin Assessments from Washington to Biden. Mr. O'Reilly, good to see you, sir. As a historian in study of these things, have we ever seen such a rapid change in the culture with one election?
No, because of the media. And if you really want to take advantage of the change, you go to BillO'Reilly.com, because we have not woke gear now. So you can wear a shirt that says not woke.
You can wear it these days.
A bumper sticker. And I think that's a great thing, because this woke movement is so anti-American, denial of due process. It's so pernicious to this country. And it's used as a cudgel to power. So if they don't like you, they being what are radical left mostly, they're going to come and punish you. And you get punished by accusation. Doesn't matter whether the accusation is true, the newspapers and the television news will broadcast and print it just because it's out there. The evildoers know that. And this has been going on now for almost 10 years. I'm amused by Jen Psaki, the mistress of propaganda, where she goes, oh, there aren't that many. Listen, lady, you don't know how many there are. And more importantly, you support it. You support biological men competing with women, biological men going into women's locker rooms and restrooms. You support it. And that's the truth. And that's what Americans are angry about.
Yeah, I think Americans are angry, and Americans now have a sense that they have been freed of this. They're not able to be canceled or taken down by the woke police anymore. But what I think is interesting, what you said, and this is an important line.
Don't jump to that conclusion. These woke people are regrouping now. You can see it with Gates. You can see it with Gates. They're going to throw everything they can at him, just like they threw at Kavanaugh. Okay? I don't know what the man did or did not do. I have no idea. All I know are two things. Number one, law enforcement looked into it and did not charge. And number two, the House Ethics Committee looked into it and wrote a scathing report. That's all I know. But the woke police don't care about either of that. They're going to smear the man and hopefully damage him forever.
All right. Look, we got a huge interview with the attorney for the two women who talked to the House Ethics Committee coming up. And I think the points and the questions you ask are smart ones. But you said something I think was really important, that this is more about power. And it always has been, right? It's not that Jen Psaki really cares whether boys play on girls' sports teams. Or it was never really about Jen Psaki thinking that you had to wear a mask. It was about power over people. And I thought nothing personified that, proved that, objectified that more than Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, who told us that Donald Trump was Hitler, spending their weekend meeting with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, talking about that this morning. Take a listen.
In this meeting, President Trump was tearful. He was upbeat. He seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
And now there's people on the left who hate them for it. I guess when the answer is, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we when that is our route to power now, right?
Everybody's missing this story, Leland. Number one, I don't know Mika and Joe very much. I've run into them a couple of times, always very respectful. I have no beef against them. They're perfectly entitled to their opinion. When they go over the line, they should be mocked. And I don't do it because I don't really care about MSNBC. But the great likelihood is that Joe and Mika were told by NBC to form some daytime. And so they did what they were told, as they always do. MSNBC's primetime numbers are down 43%. The place is blowing up. NBC News wants to sell it because MSNBC has smeared the NBC News brand so badly that NBC News and Comcast knows it cannot recover while it still holds MSNBC. So I believe, I have nothing to back this up, but I do believe I'm correct, that the NBC brass said, might be good for you to go over and talk to Donald Trump, might be able to get some good publicity out of it. Of course, they're not going to get good publicity because both the right and the left are deriding them. But that, I think, is the story.
Look, in both the right and the left mock you when you do things for the wrong reasons, right? And when you do things for power or you do things for whatever. You made a point about Matt Gaetz, the ridicule or you could say criticism that he is getting. But a lot of Donald Trump's cabinet positions have been mocked, replacing Pete Buttigieg. Secretary Buttigieg, who we know you have just really great admiration for what he has done at the Department of Transportation, will be Sean Duffy, former congressman, if confirmed, the first member of the Real World cast on MTV to become a cabinet secretary. Is the criticism of Trump's cabinet picks, A, fair, and B, do the American people care? Should they care?
A lot of the MAGA people, you could, as I wrote in my message of the day on BillO'Reilly.com, he could appoint Lady Gaga in charge of Homeland Security, and the MAGA people would go right on. So you can't do anything wrong in their eyes. As far as Duffy is concerned, he'll be 1,000 times better than Buttigieg, who did nothing for 4 years, was totally befuddled, and allowed the airline industry to abuse millions of people without penalty. And that is one of the most disgraceful things I've ever seen. Department of Transportation has been all over that. And then Buttigieg, I don't know what he's been doing or where he goes or what he does, but I'd put anybody in there. I'd give that job to you, Leland, because I know you could do a better job than Buttigieg. So criticism of Trump's appointees, generally speaking, is good for the country, as long as the criticism is valid. There are 10 people more qualified than Congressman Gaetz to run the Justice Department. I can name them. Pam Bondi should have gotten a call, and I believe will. Gaetz never going to get through the Senate. Professional people who realize the corruption in the Justice Department, who would blow it up. It needs to be blown up, okay? But at the same time, have the experience in jurisprudence that you need to run that agency. So no government leader should be immune from criticism. Bobby Kennedy Jr., I write in my message tomorrow that he should be in charge, Secretary of Snacks, okay? So we'd all have carrots and celery. We need a new department, Secretary of Snacks. And he should be the guy who's doing the snacks. But you don't put a vaccine denier and some guy who's got crazy theories in a position to run the national health care. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But I understand why Trump is doing it. He's sending a message. Yep. Middle finger to you. I'm the man. And the man is going to do exactly what he wants. But there will be a downside if Donald Trump continues that way.
All right. Well, I think that is a fair warning. Bill, thank you. Quickly, have not woke sales gone up significantly since Donald Trump's election?
It is our fastest moving item on BillO'Reilly.com in 18 years. Wow. We have tees, we have polos, and it's not only a garment, okay? You send a message, but it's humorous. It's not, we're not in it to be mean-spirited. If you are not woke, all right, like Leland and I are not woke, we're not allowed in that club, okay? If we're seen on Rodeo Drive, security would probably take us, escort us out to Wilshire Boulevard, okay? We are not woke. But all you have to do is the emblem, not woke. Holly the Terror Dog, my corgi, sleeps with the not woke tee on her every night because she's not a woke corgi. Well, and we're trying to get a little humor into this, but woke isn't funny. Woke is anti-democratic.
All right, fair enough. Pictures of the Corgi, the terror dog, on Bill O'Reilly's Twitter feed. It's good to see you, sir. Thank you as always. Speaking of RFK and snacks, Donald Trump says he is all in on making America healthy again. Will he save McDonald's and Diet Coke from Robert Kennedy's crusade?
I think a Trump transition is like taking an edible, and for a little while you're okay, and then you're like, ooh, there it is.
Marriage between Make America Great Again, MAGA, and Make America Healthy Again, MAHA, might already need some professional counseling. Take, for example, what to eat on Trump Force One, or in a couple of months on Air Force One. Donald Trump, RFK Jr., Elon Musk, Don Jr., and House Speaker Mike Johnson shared McDonald's this week on the flight to and from New York. A fillet of fish and a quarter pounder with cheese does not exactly fit the script of making America healthy. In fact, RFK Jr. calls it, quote, poison. Now, he says he won't ban fast food, but he's looking to ban certain ingredients, namely seed oils and food dyes. He's also strongly against aspartame, which is the main sweetening ingredient in, wait for it, Diet Coke. And changing Diet Coke might be a problem for RFK's boss. Donald Trump loves the drink so much, he reportedly had a button in the Oval Office to order a Diet Coke. Trump could order his new Health and Human Services Secretary not to ban Diet Coke. Do not touch Diet Coke. My fiancée Rachel would support that wholeheartedly. Others already have some more desperate measures planned.
My lips like sugar, my lips like sugar. Candy got you sprung, candy got you sprung. So call me on sugar.
If you couldn't read what it said, if you take my Diet Coke, it will make January 6th look like a pillow fight. With us now, Admiral Brett Giroir, former Assistant Secretary for Health at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Good to see you, sir. Please assuage my fears. Do I need to stockpile Skittles, Swedish Fish, Sour Patch Kids now, or can I wait a year?
Well, thanks for having me on. And first of all, I want to say I seriously question the president and RFK's judgment showing up with McDonald's on Trump Force One. Being from Texas, I always have my Whataburger here with me and my Whataburger drink, and I would highly advise Diet Coke with a number 11 easy on the sauce. But seriously, it's not what you eat at any time. It's what you eat all the time. And I am hoping RFK Jr., along with the president, it goes with the dietary guidelines that we wrote in 2020 to 2025. We don't have to ban things. We just have to move towards a more healthier diet. Instead of 60% ultra-processed foods, maybe we can do 30 or 20% ultra-processed foods, decrease the fat content somewhat. That's the road to being healthy. And everybody should feel free to enjoy their quarter pounder with cheese, their McNuggets, their Whataburger number 11 with a Diet Coke, which I always have. And having been in the Oval Office many, many times, I can assure you that the president was never without a Diet Coke, nor did he fail to offer everyone there a Diet Coke. And I certainly partake.
There you go. I'm more of a Chick-fil-A guy, but we can debate fast food later. What I think is the question is really, what can RFK do as the HHS secretary? This was interesting. The New York Times had to make a correction. Kennedy's vow to take on big food could alienate his GOP allies. Mr. Kennedy has singled out Fruit Loops as an example, one of my favorite cereals, a food group when I was a child, that has too many ingredients. In an interview with MSNBC on November 6th, he questioned the overall ingredient count. Why do Fruit Loops in this country have 18 or 19, and you can go to Canada and it has 2 or 3? A correction was made on November 17th because an editing error of an early version incorrectly described Mr. Kennedy's recent comment on Fruit Loops. He was comparing the total number of ingredients in U.S. and Canadian versions of the cereal, not the number of artificial ingredients. It turns out that in Canada, they're flavored with blueberries and carrots, and in the United States, it's things you can't pronounce. You worked at HHS. You were the assistant secretary. Is this something on day one he can order no more red dye or whatever the evil thing is in Skittles in any U.S. foods?
Well, I'm not a regulatory lawyer. I don't think he can order that, but certainly the government will respond to what he's saying. We need to improve the quality of our foods, particularly those we feed to children. And we need to take a more holistic approach. Look, it's one thing for the FDA to say this is generally regarded as safe because it doesn't cause cancer in a mouse in 3 weeks. But what they're not looking at is what does this do to a child over 20 or 30 years, which is why 80% of American adults are overweight or obese. So we need to take that more holistic look. And healthy foods can be really tasty. And again, it's not about banning everything, right? It's not about making every, kitty kale and mushrooms at their school lunch, but it's about moving toward a healthier diet, which can be nutritious and taste really good. And preserve the time for your McDonald's or Whataburger. And I'm a good Chick-fil-A guy myself. We all enjoy that. It just can't be 100% of the time, 7 days a week.
So tomorrow we have on a woman who has children who have autism to talk about the real focus RFK Jr. is bringing to the issue of autism and the explosion of autism around America. But you combine the explosion of autism, the fact that young girls are getting their periods and going through puberty earlier than ever before, dramatically earlier. Young men don't have anywhere near the testosterone levels that young men of the 1960s and 70s had. I'll give you the last 30 seconds. Why has there never been an interest in studying any of these things before? Why is bringing that up a conspiracy theory to so many?
Well, there's been interest in it, but there hasn't been the leadership for it. And that's what I think RFK is really bringing the ideas forward in a way that almost no one else can. And the president has always been concerned. And remember, we started the youth sports strategy under him to get kids off the couch into playing youth sports. And it is very important. Autism, there was just a paper, has gone up in some groups 450% in only 10 years. Now, my assessment of the literature is it's not vaccines that do that. And I think we have that clearly, but something is causing it. Put a foot in the butt of the NIH and the CDC, make them do a study that really looks at what are the causes and how do we stop it? What are the causes of premature menses, premature loss of testosterone? This is what we can get done. And with the president's Trump time combined with RFK's passion, I think we're going to be in a really good place.
Important issues. Thank you, Doctor. We'll have you back to talk about it, sir.
You're welcome.
Donald Trump says he will use the U.S. military to deport every last illegal immigrant. They're planning it at Mar-a-Lago right now. Why that won't solve the problem of illegal migrant crime. Trump raised the ante once again today on his mass deportation plan for illegal immigrants. He promised to use the U.S. military, if necessary, to deport millions of people who came in illegally. He campaigned on the dangers of illegal immigrants committing crimes. On the campaign trail, he often talked about the murders of Jocelyn Nunn-Gurry, Laken Riley, and Rachel Morin. 22-year-old nursing student, Laken Riley's alleged killer, is on trial. An illegal immigrant from Venezuela named Jose Ibarra allegedly killed her while she was out for a run. His roommate testified today that taxpayer money paid for Ibarra's trip from New York to Georgia.
And how did you get to Athens?
In New York, we asked in Manhattan.
En el Hotel Roosevelt.
And Hotel Roosevelt.
De Manhattan pedimos un vuelo humanitario aquí hasta Atlanta.
In Manhattan, we requested for a humanitarian flight to come here to Atlanta.
With us now, Patty Morin, mom of Rachel Morin. She's the 37-year-old mom of 5 who was allegedly killed by an illegal immigrant as well. That trial is expected to start in a few months. Patty, thank you for being with us. So much to cover here, but I know that you came face-to-face in court with your daughter's alleged killer. Laken Riley's mom is in that courtroom every day listening to the testimony in that trial. I'm wondering what you're thinking about, what she's thinking about, just the emotions that are going on knowing you're going to have to go through this in a couple of months.
Well, when I first saw the suspect come into the courtroom for initial hearing, my first thought was, this is the man that they said murdered my daughter. And I realized that you're innocent until proven guilty, but just that thought that I'm in the same room with a person that they are accusing of murdering my daughter was like months of devastation and sorrow all in one. It's like I couldn't, I was so upset I was shaking. It was just so unbelievable to be sitting in a room with this person. And it made me think, how many other people sit next to us that have committed crimes and we don't know about it?
It's a great point. No, it's an excellent point. And you think about the similarities, right, between Jose Ibarra, as you point out, innocent until proven guilty, who's charged in the Laken Riley case, and the suspect who allegedly killed your daughter, one from El Salvador, one from Venezuela, accused of murder there, reasons to think that Jose Ibarra committed crimes when he was in Venezuela, member of a gang there, a very violent gang, both of whom were here illegally. Those who say and speak about how immigrants should have a right to be here and we should welcome them and on, and sort of dismiss what's happened to you and what's happened to these other families. What's your response?
Well, my response is, if they were genuinely coming to America to make their life better, why did they have to come illegally? Why don't they go through the process? If they're coming here illegally, it's most likely because they think it's a free ride and they think that maybe they have a checkered past, they can leave it behind and not get caught. I don't think it should be that way. I think that they should stay in their country, go through the process legally so that we know who is coming into our country. We have 20 million people. They don't know where most of them are. And they're from 160 countries. A lot of them are terrorist groups or countries that are sworn enemies of our country. To me, it doesn't make sense. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, before your daughter was killed, you're speaking so eloquently about this. Before your daughter was killed, were you involved in politics? Were you involved in this issue of illegal immigration? Was this something that kept you up at night or you talked to your friends about?
No, it's only since this has happened. And the reason why I talk so much about it is because I don't want another family or another mother to feel this pain that I feel. And I couldn't be there to protect my daughter, which is like a mother's instinct. Yeah. So I want to do everything I can to protect some other mother's child so she doesn't have to feel the pain that I feel.
I said to you in the break how hard it is, I know. Being in this business, I've spent more time with victims' families than I'd care to count. It's always emotional and difficult, but it's so important what you're doing. What would you want us to know about Rachel? What would she have been doing now?
She would be getting ready for Thanksgiving. I have 6 children, and my oldest son, he lives in another state, but we always get together as a family around the holidays, and it's usually 30 or 40 people that include the siblings, the spouses, and all the children. And so we would all be now planning our trip down to my older son's house so we could have Thanksgiving together. And so that's not going to happen this year. It didn't happen last year.
I wish I could tell you it got easier over the years. As I said, I spent a lot of time with families and gone through this, and it just doesn't. But what you're doing now is important. Thank you. And we'll keep checking in with you, all right?
All right. Thank you, sir, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. President Biden just okayed the Ukrainians using weapons to strike deep into Russia. Why Joe Biden is playing right into Putin's hand. In terms, will meet and possibly release a report on alleged sexual misconduct allegations against Attorney General nominee, former Congressman, now Matt Gaetz. It's all part of a saga dating back to 2019. That's when the Department of Justice started investigating one of Gaetz's associates for corruption. August 2020, Gaetz's associate accused the congressman of having sex with a minor. Later that year, the FBI seized Gaetz's phone. 2021, Gaetz's associate pled guilty to sex trafficking, and the House Ethics Committee launched its own investigation. Last year, the Department of Justice declined to charge Gaetz, which brings us to Wednesday, which is when the congressman stepped down from Congress. Conceivably, that means the ethics report won't get released because he's no longer a congressman. Democrats want the ethics report to discredit Gaetz and end his bid for attorney general. To be fair, there's some Republicans who want the report released as well. The lawyer for two women accusing Matt Gaetz of paying for sex says they have proof, and they showed it to the Ethics Committee. Joel Leppard is the attorney representing those two women, and he joins us now. Good to see you, sir. Thank you. As I understand it, your clients, in your words, were at these parties 5 to 10 times where politicians were there. There was group sex and drugs. You don't end up in those situations by accident, much less 5 or 10 times. Would reasonable people call your clients escorts, call girls, college girls who had a side hustle? Give us a little more information.
You know, I'm here to tell you what they testified to the House, and when asked by the House, they declined to comment. One of them just said, "I'm just myself." The House is more concerned with whether or not those events could, actually happened than calling my clients' names.
I understand that, but you don't, I think we can all agree, you don't end up in these situations over and over again by accident.
Are you referring to Representative Gaetz or my clients?
I'm referring to your clients, if they're there 5 or 10 times. So they were willing participants in this. There's no accusations of coercion or anything like that.
Both Representative Gaetz and my clients were willing participants. That's what they testified to the House.
Okay. And the incident in which they allegedly saw Representative Gaetz involved sexually with a woman who was under the age of 18, which is the age of consent in Florida, was that the first time they had been at one of these parties, in the middle or at the end?
The testimony before the House was that my client walked out to the pool area and she witnessed Representative Gaetz having sex with her friend, which was under 17. That was the first party that she attended with Representative Gaetz. She did not know his identity at the time, I believe. Okay, so she went back to more parties after this incident with her 17-year-old friend? So once Representative Gaetz found out that she was underage, he no longer continued the sexual relationship until she was 18. But if you're getting at consent, the House did ask my clients if consent was an issue, and they testified that consent was not an issue, that they did, from a legal sense, consent to these actions. I guess what I'm more interested in is that if your clients were there and witnessing this behavior that was, by your allegation or their allegation, if she was a minor, illegal, why they kept going back over and over again? So I don't agree with the characterization as the allegations. My clients have testified truthfully when required to do so. This whole investigation, as you just showed, came out of Joel Greenberg's behavior, and Matt Gaetz became implicated. You're not answering my question. I'm asking a specific question. Your clients, and you've said you want the ethics report released. Your clients kept going back to these parties, even though they'd known allegedly that this terrible thing had happened. And I'm wondering how that makes them credible witnesses. If you're watching something happen with a 17-year-old girl, don't you call 911? Don't you try to stop it? So I think you're mischaracterizing their testimony. You're obviously not familiar with the testimony of what happened. The House asked my clients what happened, and they testified to what they saw occur. Yes, she witnessed her client having sex with Representative Gaetz. She continued to have sex with Representative Gaetz over the course of 5, 10, 15 times throughout their events. If you would have access to what these dozen witnesses say, I think you could conclude for yourself whether or not they were credible. Right now, there's no way for for the American people to decide whether or not my clients are credible, because they have provided all this evidence, and Representative Gates resigned because he did not want this to become public.
It's pretty easy to figure out whether or not your clients are credible, because the Department of Justice, that also has all their testimony, and would only have to meet the burden of proof of probable cause to charge Representative Gates. In addition, they have his cell phone that would have had the Venmo payments that you talked about. And the Biden Justice Department found your client so uncredible, they didn't charge him. Why do you think that is?
So the Department of Justice never found my clients not credible. They decided not to move forward on charges. In fact, the House, the Republican-controlled Congress, and their own ethics committee found that the further investigation merited review because they had talked to enough folks that they found evidence. That's their findings, not mine. So to say that the Department of Justice didn't go forward, many prosecutors have never lost a case. I don't know why, but I can tell you that just because a case doesn't go forward, as a criminal defense lawyer, we get numerous cases dismissed, and our clients are absolutely guilty. So to say that they didn't find them uncredible is an incredible misstatement of the facts. Every first-year law student knows.
I'm still just trying to figure this out.
Are you going to let me talk, or do you just want to?
I have let you talk. I've got a lot of questions for you. And what I'm still trying to figure out is how I'm supposed to believe, or how the American people are supposed to believe, two women who allowed a congressman or any man to have sex with their friend who was underage. What kind of friend is that who would allow that to go on, not call 911, not report it, not do anything about it until, lo and behold, he's up for Attorney General?
That's not true. They were actually asked to testify back in 2020, and they did testify. But you're pretending like they've come forward with these allegations. They have no political agenda. They didn't vote in 2020. They didn't vote in 2024. They're not anti-Matt Gaetz per se. They were required to testify. The only reason that I'm talking to you today is because they want the report released in order that they do not have to testify any further. If they could just not to hear the word Matt Gaetz ever again for the rest of their life and go back to their normal life, that would make them happy. They don't have a dog in this fight.
First of all, no one requires them. First of all, nobody requires them to testify. You can't make a victim
absolutely.
testify.
They have never. The House issued a subpoena and they testified. Please get your facts straight before you ask me questions. They did. They have only talked to individuals when they were required to do so by law, and that's what they did. They testified under oath, honestly.
So the allegations are that these women receive payments, though, from Matt Gaetz for sex, which is a crime in Florida, and that they did so multiple times after this incident occurred. What it sounds like is that they had no problem with any of Matt Gaetz's behavior, and in fact, they engaged in it, and that they brought an underage girl to a party that had sex, drugs, and politicians.
The testimony before the House is actually that the minor was the one that was contacted by Joel Greenberg, and she brought my client to the party. But the issue of consent, I've already told you, was not an issue. They were asked to testify before the House about what they saw regarding illegal drugs and improper sexual actions, and they testified truthfully.
All right. We will see if we get the report on Wednesday. We appreciate you being with us. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. We wrote about this in War Notes. That's our online newsletter. Comes out every day at 4 p.m. Eastern. Our thoughts on the most important stories of the day. Warnotes.com to subscribe for free. If you follow that link, warnotes.com, you can also download the NewsNation app there. Get push alerts on all the big stories, all the big interviews as well. President Biden is going all in on allowing Ukraine to use American weapons deep inside Russia. The roll of the dice that shows Putin may be winning the war. Sweden right now, it's 25 degrees, and the country says its citizens should stockpile water, grains, pasta, canned foods, and cash in preparation for war. There's a nice thought heading into the holidays. The country passed out this pamphlet with those helpful tips just hours after President Biden authorized Ukraine to use American weapons for strikes deep into Russia. President Biden is down in South America right now. You can see him there at the G20 conference. He's long said allowing Ukraine to strike Russia would be a massive escalation. Word from the front lines paint a grim picture for Ukraine. The country's military doesn't have the men or equipment to hold off Russian advances. And 1,000 days now after the invasion, the United States is running out of weapons to give them. Former Deputy Assistant Secretary for State for Legislative Affairs, Joel Rubin, is with us. Good to see you
too,
now. Isn't this just more of the same of President Biden incrementally giving the Ukrainians a little bit more, and eventually we're going to end up with a real war?
You know, this is definitely a strategic change. This is one where now Ukraine will be able to use ATACMS to strike territory where North Korea has troops that, remember, Vladimir
So
Putin
what has changed? What has changed
Yes.
since President Biden and Jake Sullivan, in his infinite wisdom, told us, if we do this, well, then it's going to be an escalation?
Well, you know, to paraphrase President-elect Trump, it's peace through strength. And so where we're going right now...
So this is really a gift to President Trump, is what you're saying.
This is saying those North Korean troops...
Isn't this just a giant middle finger to Donald Trump of saying, we're going to make this even a broader conflict, more difficult?
No. I think this is a way to tell the North Korean troops there and Vladimir Putin directly, do not use these troops. They are now vulnerable. And for Donald Trump, you're going to come in, you're going to see a stronger Ukraine. And if you want to do a negotiation, you want to move forward, you're going to have to do one where there are real assets on the ground. And for the Ukrainians...
So why did it take so long?
Because, the North Korean troops are a very recent development. I think that's what triggered this. Prior to that, President Biden was not going to go there. But calling in 10,000 troops in North Korea, that really is too far.
Oh, that was the part that was too far.
That was it.
So it's not that Ukraine's losing.
Well, what they're doing is they're expanding the war now. They're bringing in troops from North Korea that are threatening European countries directly. And I think the president recognizes that that is a strategic challenge, and I think he's responding to.
63 days till Inauguration Day. Joel, it's always good to see you.
Leland.
Thank you very much, my friend. All right. It's only Monday, and boy, has there been a lot of news. Congresswoman Nancy Mace tomorrow. You won't believe what she just introduced in the House.